The next Friday, my phone buzzed around 6 p.m. as I was tying my hair back and slipping my keys into my bag. Liam. Hey babe, Sienna's thing was super boring. Wanna grab dinner? I smiled at the timing. Of course. Me. Can't tonight. Have plans. He responded almost immediately. Plans with who? Cooking class. Starts at 7. Cooking class? Since when? Since last week. It's every Friday. There was a pause. But Friday is our night. We canceled that, remember? Too much pressure with your schedule. I didn't think you were serious. I thought you were just upset about Enzo's. I was serious. Have fun with Sienna. He called after that. I let it ring out as I walked into the bright, stainless steel kitchen that smelled like garlic and butter and possibility. Welcome to Intro to Italian Cooking, the instructor said, smiling as he handed me an apron. First up, fresh pasta. While Liam blew up my phone with, "This is so petty. I can't believe you're ignoring me. Fine, whatever. Have fun with your little class." I measured flour and cracked eggs and learned how to knead the dough until it turned silky beneath my palms. At the end of class, my arms ached pleasantly, my stomach smelled like heaven, and my phone screen was lit up with unread messages. Actually, that's kind of hot that you're learning to cook. Will you make me dinner tomorrow? Hello? I replied once I was home, shoes off, apron tossed over the back of a chair. Class was great. Tired now. Talk tomorrow. I could practically hear him spluttering through the silence. He showed up at my apartment 20 minutes later. I was already expecting it. You can't just replace me with a cooking class, he said the second I opened the door, marching past me like an offended king whose throne had been moved. I'm not replacing you, I said, leaning against the counter. I'm using my Friday nights for something reliable. I'm reliable. I raised an eyebrow and pulled out my phone, scrolling through our past 3 months of texts. Running late. Sorry, forgot. Rain check? OMG, totally spaced. You mad? I held the screen up. This is not what reliability looks like. That's not fair, he snapped. You're keeping score. No, I corrected. I'm keeping receipts. There's a difference. His shoulders dropped. He tried a different tactic, his voice softening, eyes going wide and careful. I'll do better, I promise. Just cancel the class, and we'll have amazing date nights. I'll make it up to you. The class is non-refundable, I said, and I'm enjoying it. You're being ridiculous. Normal girlfriends would just be happy I want to spend time with them at all. Ah, there it was. The entitlement that had always been there, just dressed up in charm. You're right, I said calmly. A normal girlfriend probably would. His eyes lit up, misunderstanding. Good thing, I added. You don't have one of those. He stared at me, thrown off balance. This wasn't the script he was used to. Normally, this was where I'd crumble, apologize for overreacting, and beg him to stay. Except I was done performing. He left in a huff, muttering something about me being dramatic. I watched the door close behind him, then turned back to the small container of leftover pasta I'd brought home. It needed more salt. He needed consequences. For once, I wasn't going to season either of those things for his comfort. Update 2. Week 2 of cooking class, and I made the most perfect risotto I've ever tasted. Creamy, delicate, just the right balance of parmesan and wine. I posted a photo on Instagram. Just the dish, no caption. Within minutes, Liam liked it and commented, "Save me some!" I didn't reply. That Friday, just before class started, my phone buzzed again. Guess what? I'm near your area. Thought I'd surprise you and join the class. I blinked at the message, then looked around the half-full classroom. Bright white countertops, copper pans hanging above us, the smell of sautéed onions already filling the air. Our instructor, Marco, clapped his hands. Everyone ready to dice? By 7:10, the door opened, and there he was. Surprise! Liam grinned, stepping inside like this was a movie scene and not my very real, very paid-for escape from him. Thought I'd join you. Marco frowned politely. I'm sorry. Are you registered? I'm her boyfriend, Liam said, like that was a golden ticket. Marco checked his clipboard. Registration closed 2 weeks ago. This class is full. I'm sure you can squeeze one more in, Liam pressed. Charm dialed up to 11. I can stand at the back. I'll even wash dishes. Marco's voice stayed calm, professional. I'm afraid that's not possible. Please check back next session. The class had gone silent. Everyone's eyes flicked between us, like we were an unexpected performance piece. I didn't say a word, just picked up my knife and kept slicing zucchini. Liam stood there a second longer, then muttered something under his breath and stormed out. He waited 3 hours in the parking lot. When I walked out at 10:10, apron folded under my arm, he was leaning against my car. 3 hours, he said flatly. I waited 3 hours for you. Nobody asked you to. I'm trying, Mara. I cleared my whole night for you. You cleared your night for you, I said evenly, I already had plans. He looked at me, exasperated. God, when did you become so consistent, so reliable for your own stuff? Maybe around the time I stopped waiting for someone else to be. He laughed once, bitter. Fine, keep your stupid class. But Saturdays are ours now. Deal? I have the gym in the morning, I said, walking past him toward the car. Free in the afternoon, though. Perfect. Saturday date nights, then. I shrugged. Sure. Let's see if you can manage that. Spoiler, he couldn't. The first Saturday, he was hungover. The second, his sister needed an emergency shopping buddy. The third, he just forgot. Each time, I made other plans. Met up with friends I hadn't seen in months. Went to museums he found boring. Bookstores he'd complain were too quiet. By week 5, he was the one texting me on Saturdays. Why aren't you fighting for us anymore? Do you even want this relationship? I feel like you're slipping away. I typed back slowly. I'm not slipping. I'm exactly where I've always been. You just never showed up. That one hit. He didn't reply. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. My notifications were blowing up. Tags, screenshots, comments. Liam had posted on Facebook. When you're trying so hard to save your relationship, but she's more interested in cooking classes than you, why are people like this? The post was public. Predictably, his friends piled on. Bro, she doesn't deserve you. That's messed up. I'd kill for someone to take cooking classes with me. Some people just don't know what they have until it's gone. A few of our mutual friends said nothing, which said everything. I didn't comment, but I did something better. I took a screenshot of the calendar Liam had proudly shown me the week before, all those brunches, parties, hangouts, and posted my own update. Interesting perspective. Here's his actual schedule this month. 23 social events, 0 designated couple time. But yes, clearly I'm the problem. I let it sit. The post spread like wildfire in our circle. Friends DM'd me privately. Wait, he hasn't scheduled any time with you? I wondered why we never saw you two together anymore. Girl, this is embarrassing for him. It took less than an hour for him to call. You need to take that down, he hissed. Why? I asked. It's your calendar, your priorities. I just shared them. You're humiliating me. No, I said calmly. I'm providing context. There's a difference. He went silent, then hung up. I left my post up for exactly 1 hour, then deleted it. Not to protect him, just because the point was already made. Update 3. By week 6 of my cooking class, I'd graduated from basic pasta to complex sauces. My Instagram had transformed into a soft glow of home-cooked meals and carefully plated dishes. Friends started commenting things like, when are you opening a restaurant? Dinner invite when? So, I started hosting small supper nights. Nothing fancy, just a few friends, wine, laughter, food that made people close their eyes and hum when they chewed. Liam wasn't invited to any of them. The irony wasn't lost on me. He'd once told me I wasn't a dinner party person. Turns out I just hadn't been allowed to be one. One Friday evening, just as I was zipping up my bag for class, my phone buzzed. Can we talk? Please, I'll come to you. In class 7 to 10, free after if urgent. I'll wait. And he did. When I got home, he was sitting on the front steps of my apartment building. It was late. The air smelled like rain. He looked smaller than I'd ever seen him. I missed you today, he said quietly. Today specifically? He nodded. Fridays feel wrong now. I keep thinking you'll text about dinner plans. I didn't say anything, just unlocked my door. Want some tea? He followed me inside. Looked around like he'd never really seen my place before. You redecorated, he murmured, eyes on the framed prints and plants I'd filled the shelves with. And you cook now. That's new. It's not new, I said, filling the kettle. I just stopped waiting for someone to cook with me first. He sat at the kitchen island, the one he'd always dismissed as too small to bother with. I made tea and slid him a mug. I keep making plans for Fridays, he said, then remembering you won't be there. How's that feel? Empty, he admitted. Really empty. Yeah, I said softly. I know that feeling. He looked at me, really looked, like he was finally realizing something he should have months ago. You were lonely, even when we were together. Yep. I made you lonely. I sipped my tea. Didn't confirm or deny. Sometimes silence says more than any accusation. He pulled out his phone suddenly. I scheduled you in, he said. What? He turned the screen toward me. Every Friday marked date night with Mara, do not book. When did you do that? 3 weeks ago, he said, after you posted that thing. And I've kept them clear, but you're never free. I'm in class. I know. I just thought maybe if I showed you... Showed me what? That you can use a calendar? I knew you could. You scheduled 23 other things that month. He flinched. I prioritized wrong, he whispered. No, I said. You prioritized exactly what mattered to you, and that's fine. But I decided to do the same. He stared into his tea. So, what now? We just exist separately? I don't know, Liam. What do you want? I want Fridays back. I want to matter enough that you'll skip class for me. I mattered enough to skip 23 events for you, I said quietly. You never noticed. He looked down. No defense left. I won't skip commitments I've made, I said finally. Not for someone who couldn't remember the ones we already had. He nodded slowly, then stood up. You're right. For once, he didn't try to argue or promise or beg. He just left, quietly, like a man who finally understood the echo he'd created. Final update. The choice. Week 12, the final night of my cooking class. We'd spent nearly 3 months together, the same dozen faces, the same rhythm of chopping, laughing, burning, learning. Marco, our instructor, announced that for our last class, each of us would prepare a full 3-course meal for invited guests. Someone you want to impress, he said, grinning. Someone worth cooking for. I thought about that, about who in my life was still worth impressing. Then I sent 2 invites, not to Liam, but to my friends Haley and James from my hiking group, the ones who'd cheered me on through my quiet rebuild, the ones who'd never needed convincing to show up. That Friday morning, as I was prepping my ingredients, my phone buzzed. Liam, congrats on finishing your class. Proud of you. I stared at the message for a long time before replying. Thanks. A pause, then, what's next? Another class. Haven't decided which yet. Maybe we could do something together. Fridays. I didn't respond. I just stared at the screen, his words hanging there like an open door. For the first time, I didn't rush to walk through it. That evening, I plated my final meal. Handmade gnocchi in brown butter sage sauce, roasted tomato soup, and lemon tiramisu. My guests laughed, toasted, and actually tasted what I'd made. When Marco announced that I'd won Best Presentation, I laughed out loud, not because of the compliment, but because it had been so long since I'd done something just for me and been proud of it. When I got home that night, the apartment felt different, lighter, like even the air was proud of me. The following Friday was the first one without class. I kept the evening open. Not for Liam, just for curiosity, to see what I'd do with the space that used to be disappointment. At 5 p.m., my phone lit up. Liam. Hey, still thinking? I kept tonight open, just in case. What did you have in mind? Anything you want. Your choice. How about you plan something? Show me what you think a good date night looks like. There was a pause, then. Really? Okay, give me an hour. At 6:30, he sent an address. A small restaurant I'd mentioned months ago, one I'd said I wanted to try, but that he'd brushed off as too fancy for pasta. I hesitated, then grabbed my coat and went. He was already there when I arrived, 15 minutes early, sitting alone with a book I'd once recommended, but he'd never read. The sight of it made something in my chest twist. Hope, maybe. Or nostalgia pretending to be forgiveness. You're here, I said softly. He looked up, smiled. Not cocky, not rehearsed, just present. Wanted to make sure we got our table. Dinner was quiet, good quiet. He'd actually made a reservation, remembered my favorite drink, even put his phone face down and didn't touch it once. He listened when I talked about my class, about how I'd learned the patience of stirring risotto until it thickened properly, about how the timing had to be perfect or it all fell apart. So, he said once dessert came, what now? Now, I said slowly, we see if this was a one-time performance or an actual change. He nodded. Fair. What are your terms? No terms, I said. Just consistency. Show up when you say you will. Value our time like you value everything else you plan. I can do that. We'll see, I said. For 3 weeks he did. He showed up, called when he said he would. Then came the inevitable test, a message on Wednesday. I know Friday is ours, but Lena's having this pre-baby dinner thing. Can we move date night to Thursday instead? It was small, but it was progress. Sure, Thursday's fine, I typed back. And meant it. Because the difference now wasn't whether he remembered me, it was that I no longer needed him to, in order to feel whole. We're not back together. Not really. We're figuring it out. He schedules me in now, properly, like his other commitments, and I don't wait around when he slips up. The cooking class turned into a monthly supper club with friends. Sometimes Liam joins, sometimes he doesn't. When he forgets, we still eat. Because somewhere between the first forgotten dinner and the last homemade risotto, I realized something I should have known all along. I never needed him to remember date night. I needed to remember myself. He learned his lesson not through punishment or revenge, but through silence, through the mirror. I held up showing him what absence really feels like. And me, I learned to make a killer risotto and to never again beg someone to keep a promise they were never planning to keep. Because the most unforgettable thing you can do after being forgotten is become unforgettable to yourself.